Hey, good evening, race fans, and welcome back to another Inside edition of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast with Kip Thompson. Hope everyone's had a great week here for our podcast. I'll tell you, we've kind of weathered the storm. We've been off here for just a little bit. We had to go through the power outage here in Moore County, and everything is back up and running now. And we're super excited to come back and bring you a show tonight. Tonight's show is being brought to you in part by Raging Rooster Catering out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Tony and Bobby Jackson, great friends of ours. They have an awesome catering business. They'll come to your event for 30 people or more. They have a really, really great menu. And anytime you're at the Fayetteville Motor Speedway, their food truck is located up on the main concourse area, and you need to check those guys out and be sure to tell them that the Voice of Victory Lane sent you. That is Raging Rooster Catering. And also tonight, we give out a special shout out to a sponsor who wanted to step in and be a part of tonight's show. Thompson's Lawn Maintenance, both residential and commercial, serving Sanford and Lee County areas. Since 2019, they offer top quality lawn care. They will be glad to come right to your on-site business or residence and give you a free quote for all of your lawn care needs. You can call them today at 919-721-9540. Thompson's Lawn Care Maintenance. Hey, those guys will make sure to keep you looking good in your neighborhood. And let us mention that Thompson's Lawn Care, they are the official lawn care provider of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. So tonight we're going to jump into the show. We are super excited to have our special guest with us tonight. Once we introduce him and you see him, it will not be a stranger, no doubt. If you're around motorsports the way I am, and you can see him on Flow Racing, MAV TV, Racing America. Hey, it doesn't matter. This guy is all over the place, and we're super excited to have my good friend tonight, Wesley Outland. Wesley, Merry Christmas and welcome to the show, my friend.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. Thanks to everybody for having me on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. You know, Kip, we've talked about this for probably the last year to get this done, and your schedule finally worked. My schedule finally worked. I have an off night tonight, and it's good to be able to join everybody on the show.
Well, you know, I was thinking about that today. We talked about it, and we were actually on air on the CRN network at Outland for the annual kids race. And I want to just tell you again, man, thank you so much for heating out the call and calling me out of the pit area to come up and help you with the Legends race. You know, I have a big heart for the Legends deal, and County Line's such a great place, and J.R. Knotts and all those guys there. But to be up in the booth with you at any time, it was always fun, and I appreciate you doing that. So let's talk about doing what you do on the side from me. Being an announcer, you always love to pat other announcers on the back and encourage them. And you do such a fine job of doing that with so many different people. And always you give me shout outs every time you know a legend car is about to take the racetrack, and I appreciate it. So let's talk about first how you got involved with this and how long you've been doing it.
So I just wrapped up my 27th consecutive year as a announcer / broadcaster. I started when I was 13 years old. True story, playing football at Clayton, proud to be the radio voice of the Clayton Comets with the Community Radio Network, which is another company that I operate with, not only doing racing, but also sports. We're in the basketball fold of things right now. Just wrapped up football, but long story short, Kip, I was at a football dead of summer, asked my coach, Gary Fowler, a question about a football play. He answered it. Next thing you know, he yells, "Number 31, come over here." And he says, "Hey, man, you've got a great voice. You ever thought about doing announcing?" And I said, "No, never." And he said, "Well, you're going to be my new PA announcer for football. You're going to do JV football on Thursday night, doing public address. You're going to do, playing football on Friday." And it worked out perfectly, because if JV was at home Thursday, varsity's on the road Friday, and vice versa. And then from there on, I got into announcing wrestling, got into announcing basketball, got into announcing, baseball and stuff of that sort. My sophomore year, I was in high school, and the promoter that used to operate Southern National, Ron Gammon, who's no longer there. It was Ron Gammon, Kirk Leon, and now Michael Diaz that operates Kinley. Ron Gammon came up to me. His son, Drew Gammon, was playing for Princeton-Clayton basketball game. He heard me announcing on public address, and he said, "Man, you're a really great announcer for a young guy. Have you ever thought about doing race announcing?" Well, I loved racing, man. I grew up around racing all my life, Kip. My dad raced cars. I used to help my dad working on the race cars. I might not know a skill of anything about the race cars, but I'd help him, roll the car, roll the tires, grab a jack, grab wrenches, whatever I could to help out. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he raced cars. So racing was something that was already a part of my wheelhouse growing up. I wanted to be a flagman. I wanted to be the next Dole Ford. I wanted to be the next Harold Kinder of NASCAR flagmen. And then finally a harsh reality set in, Kip. They don't make no damn money. So I flag a time or two, and I can flag races. But long story short, to make it easy, I was approached by Ron Gammon. He said, hey, come announce races. From there on, I got to work with so many different people. I'm 13 years old now, working with grown men and women. Gene Pittman, Alex Hayden, Charlie Lamb, Bob and Matt Carter, just some of the names of people, Bobby Lamb, just some of the names that I got to work with. Jim Rochelle, Jay Butler, who used to be at QDR, he passed away. He did some announcing. People that I worked with, Steve Vale, Mike Leggett, Larry Long, Rick Eshelman. I finally got to meet Rick Eshelman, and Rick's been in the news because he passed away on October 1st. He passed away on my birthday. And he was a mentor, a friend, and a colleague. And Kip, one of the greatest memories I'll ever have was going to Eldora Speedway, meeting Rick, idolizing Rick, and there wasn't a cocky arrogance, and I think that's one of the reasons why I am the way I am. I like talking to other announcers. I like trying to give people advice. We're not the show. We're a bridge of what's going on to the racetrack, to what the fans are seeing in the stands, to what they're seeing on the court, to what they're seeing on the field. As long as you try your best to prepare, study, try to have it right when you're entertaining somebody, I think that's the biggest thing that you can take from it. And be kind to people. You ain't got to be a jerk. You ain't got to be, well, I'm this guy and this is my track and I'm the announcer or I'm the series announcer and I don't need you to work with me. I encourage more voices than one because I think everybody has differences of opinion. You put those personalities together, Kip, and it makes just for a great broadcast. And there's just some people that you work with where there's chemistry, and it just works, and it gels. It works when me and you call a race together. J.R. Knotts is different than I am, but when you get us together, it sounds perfect. The same with Eddie Pollard. The same with Mark Huey. Just some of the announcers in this area. And it's all about no I in team. The more people you work with, the more of a fun time you have.
Well, Wesley, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I will tell you again, man, I love it every single time. You and I do work good together, and
yes.
I've had a great experience, in being in the booth with you at Lakeview, County Line, other places. But let's back up just a little bit.
Sure.
Talking about the World of Outlaws losing Rick back in October. I remember being County Line Raceway for the annual kids race. And man, when you did that little kind of memorial thing and talking about Rick, and man, got so emotional over that. That guy meant so much to you. And what a loss, man, for the racing industry and the community and motorsports, because no doubt about it, everybody has their own way. Everybody has their own style. But Rick, no doubt, man, was one of a kind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to get emotional just thinking about it. It's just he was a great friend. Enjoyed working with him on several occasions. We worked so many races together. We worked Charlotte. We worked the Dirt Track World Championship. We worked at West Virginia Motor Speedway together. And he was just one of those guys where also you build a friendship and a rapport with him. He'll just text you randomly. He'll call you randomly. The last conversation we literally had with one another was the Wednesday before he took his life. And it was just in regards of, hey, man, would you like to come back to Charlotte? Are you available for the World Short Track Championship this year? Because honestly, Kip, we get so wrapped up in our schedules, and after COVID, I branched away from, I still loved racing, but racing changed. I think anybody that's involved in the sport will tell you that it changed. And things kind of went into a different direction for me where, listen, I get paid to talk for a living, Kip, whether it's cutting radio commercials, whether it's doing voiceovers, whether it's doing, voiceovers in movies or calling races or calling sports. That's the reason why I got involved in iRacing again, because we went through COVID. I went 3.5, 4 months without work. And then there was a realization there. If I'm going to make it in this business, I can't just focus on racing. I got to do football. I got to do basketball. I got to do baseball. And I think it's also good to be diversified, Kip, because, and I say this in no disrespect, but if Fox Sports Radio is going to pay me this to go do a college football game or a basketball game, than to go to a local short track, I've got to do it. And it's not because I don't love racing, but it's kind of, I'm at a time in my career where it's, you got to pick where you got to go to, for sure. But Rick Eshelman, great friend, learned so much from him. There is so much politics and backstabbing that is in this industry today. It is absolutely pathetic. I just try not to be that way, Kip. I just try not to be that way. Though I get drugged down sometimes in that, or other people do, I just try to find a way to find a positive than a negative. And I just try to uplift our sport, uplift the people that you're around than to knock them down, for sure. And I think that's something Rick Eshelman taught me.
Well, I think that's what it takes, in our industry, to always promote the good and try to stay away from the negative.
Oh, yeah.
As we've both seen through 2021 and as we rolled into 2022 and headed fastly to 23, man, we see a lot of racetracks shutting down.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to take to stop that. But I think, being on that positive spin and everything that we do, wherever we are, who we're in contact with, I could not agree with you more. And I will add one thing on that, man. What I would give one more time live to hear old Rick. Hey, you wanted the best, you got the best. Here come the World of Outlaws. And, man, he could get a crowd up. I mean, he was an awesome, awesome guy, and a big, huge loss for our racing.
Yeah, you got Johnny Gibson mixed in with Rick Eshelman, my friend, but that's one of the greats with the sprint cars, Johnny Gibson. A funny thing they announced the other day, $1 million to win finally for the sprint cars at Eldora. But Rick Eshelman's line was, here they are, the most powerful late models on the planet. We bring to you the World of Outlaw late model series or whatever title sponsor it was that it was, and now it's Case Equipment. But it still brings tingles and a tear to my eye watching some of the highlights or hearing his voice on TV or for stuff on social media. I miss my friend. That's a very nice way of saying it. And if there's anybody out there that are going through something that they don't know if they don't know which way to turn, or they're thinking of contemplating suicide, text 9888, call 9888, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, call a friend, call Kip Thompson, hell, call me. You might not know me from Adam, but if there's something that's bothering you before you take a jump off that ledge, please find help. And I don't want to go off subject of what that is, but Kip, I think in light of what happened to Rick Eshelman, it's definitely something that we all think about, for sure. We all have problems. We all have good and bad times in our lives, but you never know who's on the edge of jumping off. And get help if there's somebody out there like that, for sure.
I appreciate you offering that and assistance to people who may need some help. But also another name, man, that means a lot to me that you mentioned in some of the people that you had the opportunity and the honor and pleasure of working with, man, the Southern gentleman, Larry Long. Nothing like seeing them bunched up side by side coming off of turn 4 and hearing him say, all right, now we're going to try to get a clean green here. Good start, fellas. Come on, break it to the line now.
Yeah, the word that comes to the humdinger is the word that comes to mind whenever I used to work with Mr. Larry Long on many a Saturday night at Fayetteville Motor Speedway or at Dublin Motor Speedway, and of course whenever I was a tenure for 2 years with the Carolina Clash Super Late Model Series, he'd always say, humdinger, and that guy. And I'm telling you, a lot of people don't realize this. He was a wealth of knowledge, Kip. When I first started announcing for the Carolina Clash, I want to say it was 08 and 09 or 07 and 08 when I done it. God, it's a long time ago. Time flies by, I swear. and I'd done the NDRA as well for a couple of years. But when Mark Huey finally got it, Mark Huey had left Lancaster on a full-time basis and started working with the Carolina Clash after I was there. And I replaced Ozzy Altman. And out of nowhere, one day, man, I'm at home in Four Oaks at the time. Larry Lee calls me out of the blue, and he was the original promoter president of the Carolina Clash. And he said, "Hey, Wesley, what you doing?" And I said, "Well, who is this?" He said, "Larry Norris gave me your number." And Larry Norris was a former promoter at Fayetteville. And he said, "Are you interested in doing the Carolina Clash series?" And I said, "Yeah, but I thought you had Ozzy Altman." And he said, "Well, we're going a different direction. Ozzy's going to go here. We're doing this. We're going to bring you in." And first race I did was at Travelers Rest. Rambo Dennis Franklin was on the pole. Jeff Smith ended up winning it because they got together on the last lap. He cut down a tire, and Jeff Smith was able to win the race. That was in 2000 and I believe 9 or 2008. Jeff Smith won the championship, and Chris Ferguson was the rookie of the year. And these things I just remember. Like going back in track, I could tell you so many stories that I could think in my head. I could tell you where I was, what I was doing, who won this, who won that. But Larry Long was the same way, Kip. The knowledge he had, the notes he kept up with. And when I got hired to be the voice of the Carolina Clash series and kind of help out with doing a little bit with PR writing, he gave me like stacks of books. Because you got to remember, the computers was out. Facebook had just got started. But you had papers, you had index cards, you had the things that a lot of people don't use now. People use Google Docs now. I use Google Docs now. But I think, honestly, Kip, I was lucky because I started in an era where, listen, if timing and scoring crashes, sometimes tracks around America, they freak out. They don't know what to do. They stop and halt the show. I'm one of those types where, okay, timing and scoring's crashed. Let's grab a pen and paper. Let's hand score them. Let's write them down. I'll keep up with them. And, I think I was lucky enough, Kip, to come along in the technology phase of where it started, with the papers and the notepads to where we are now with technology. And I've adapted and grown with it. But if something happens, we go to Y2K or something in 2023, I can jump right back and grab a pen and paper to get it done. And Larry Long was a lot like that.
Yeah, Larry Long, he was a walking encyclopedia when it comes to racing. And I just remember when I got involved in racing back in the early 90s, it was back when racetracks worked together. We would run every Friday night this month at Lakeview, and every Saturday night we'd be at Fayetteville. And then the next month it would be swapped over. Fayetteville ran Friday night and Lakeview ran on Saturday. And it was cool because whatever race you went to, both of those tracks being so close together, you had a field full of cars in every single class, and you got to hear Larry Long at both places.
That's right.
That's actually really, really, really neat. So what we're going to do, Wesley, we're going to take a real quick break and hear from our sponsor. And when we come back, we want to talk with you a little bit about what's on your schedule and what you're going to be doing to kick off 2023. I already know there's some asphalt racing, some New Year's Bash things going on. And when we come back, we're going to get into that and find out what's on the slate for Wesley Outland coming up in 2023. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from our show sponsor, Raging Rooster Catering, right here on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. Tonight's show is being sponsored by Raging Rooster Catering out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We cater any event, big or small, weddings, holiday events, and festivals. Call us today, 910-237-4565. Follow us on Facebook at Raging Rooster Catering. We invite you to come get you some. All right, race fans, welcome back to the second half of another Inside edition of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast with Kip Thompson. Tonight's show is brought to you in part by Raging Rooster Catering and Thompson's Lawn Maintenance out of Sanford, North Carolina. Hey, tonight we've got my good friend Wesley Outland, an announcer that travels all over the country, and I have the great pleasure of knowing him, number one. Number two, calling him my friend, and also being in the booth with him from time to time is such a delight. And Wesley, welcome back again to the show tonight. And let's talk about now as we move into 2023. Man, there's already stuff scheduled. There's stuff, people are thinking, man, I got to get the itch. I've been off for 2 or 3 weeks, man. We got to go racing again. Well, it's about to get started up for you here real quick.
Well, listen, there really is no off season anymore. Okay, I just came back from announcing a race for Racing America at Carteret County Speedway, the Race of Champions. I've got a couple of weeks off, of course. You know, I have a radio show for Fox Sports Radio that'll be going in year number 6 on January the 4th. Finish Line. It's available on all podcast outlets available, and of course, it's on Fox Sports Radio affiliates across the Carolinas. We're looking to expand, actually. So really excited what Finish Line has done. And we'd love to get you, Kip Thompson, returning the Olive Branch, to get you on as well to promote not only the voice of Victory Lane, but also Fayetteville Motor Speedway, because I know they got some big things coming up. But yeah, got New Year's Day, the Hangover 150. The day before that, I do one of the college football bowl games. I'm still waiting to find out from Fox Sports Radio what game it will be that I'll be doing. Right smack dab in the middle of Christmas break, I'm doing basketball Christmas tournaments and invitationals. Racing will be the first at Goodyear All-American Speedway for the Hangover 150. And then the following week, it's January the 6th, 7th, and 8th at Dillon Motor Speedway for the Racing America coverage of the 13th annual New Year's Bash. Kip, that's a special race for me, not only because of the amazing relationship that I have with Ron Barfield and Bill Flynn and all the great people at Dillon Motor Speedway. In the 13 years of that event, I've announced the New Year's Bash 10 out of the 13 years. And it's just one of those events that I get to put on my calendar like people do with the Ice Bowl. And yeah, I've done the Ice Bowl. 2 years that I missed the New Year's Bash was because I was on the broadcast crew with the Ice Bowl at Talladega. So, man, it's a fun time. There is no off season anymore. Then you've got banquets, you've got ceremonies where we got to get all spiffied up and nice and dressed up in suits and ties or whatever the hell you want to wear, and hand out hardware, hand out checks. And we have those banquets going on. Fast Track Night of Champions, Florence Motor Speedway, Carteret County Speedway, Langley Speedway. Just some of the banquets I've been invited to. I've been invited to go to the Dirt Car Racing National Banquet up in Missouri, whenever they do that as well. And it's always just a fun time to be a part of those ceremonies. And that's whenever, you get to see the drivers, you get to see the crew members, the officials, your comrades, and you cut up and you have fun. You have a couple of drinks, you get to eat some good food, and you get to acknowledge all the accomplishments and accolades they've done throughout the year. But yeah, man, I mean, there really is no off season anymore, for sure.
Well, I'll go ahead and publicly now accept that invitation for Fast Track Radio. We've talked about that. So I finally got you.
Yes.
And so I promise you I will return the favor and be glad to be on your show with you, man, anytime. You just let me know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Love to have you on Finish Line. We had a great show the other day. I can tell you I've got Dave Moody coming on the program, one of the greats and colleagues of Motor Racing Network. He's got a announcer seminar that's coming up, and it's the same weekend of the New Year's Bash coming up on, I believe it's January the 7th. But I told him, man, I'd love to have you on. Would love to have you talk about NASCAR, but also to have you talk about short track racing and to talk about, he's one of the greats. I mean, you look at what Dave Moody's done. He is the successor, the protege of NASCAR broadcaster Ken Squire, and somebody that I've worked with along the way as well at Charlotte and Atlanta. So, yeah, man, I mean, Kip, I've done NASCAR. I've done local racing. I've done dirt racing. I've done pavement. I've just humbly been blessed. I've been so blessed to be able to get to do what I do. I know there's some people out there that they knock you down, or they don't like your personality, or they don't like your voice. But then you got other people out there that are, they support you. And my thing is this: I don't care whether you know my name or not, whether you like me or whether you don't, as long as I do my best. And I know when I lay my head down at night, or the promoters or the bosses I work for know that I'm putting my effort in to do the best job that I can. The haters are going to hate. Bottom line, let them say what they want to say. And like I said, we live in a world today where people want to be so negative. Instead of being negative, find something positive to say. Go support your short tracks. Support NASCAR. Support drag racing. Support dirt. Support pavement. At the end of the day, Kip Thompson, we're all brothers and sisters in this world that we call motorsports, like we're brothers and sisters in Christ, and I believe that.
And absolutely, and another thing too, you know, with how you carry yourself and what you do when you're in the broadcast. I mean, there's no doubt anytime when I'm watching on TV, hey, there's my buddy Wesley. Hey, oh, I'm in the infield. Dad, Wesley Allen's here tonight. You know, the thing about it is I love and I feed off of you watching the race, or especially if I'm right beside you with a microphone in my hand and we're together, you know, the passion, man, that you have sport. And I kind of like to think that I have a passion for it as well, because I love the sport. And, you know, the whole reason behind what we do here with the Voice of Victory Lane podcast, yes, Fayetteville Motor Speedway is my home racetrack, and I am the voice of Race of Heroes Victory Lane down there. But, you know, we have done this and tried to incorporate just for the love of racing, for the guys who support our local racetrack every single week, man. And people and fans just do not understand that. You know, they like to think that, hey, I'm going to pay a gate fee and I'm going to sit in the grandstand, but they don't understand what these drivers and these teams do, what it costs to rob Peter to pay Paul, and they're enough money for gas to get there. Plus, they got enough tires, and then they got their crews in. Man, it takes a whole village, man, to put this on. And people like me and you behind them, I think, is a huge plus in promoting them. You know, it's almost like if you're coaching a team, you got to love the kids a little bit more than you love the game. And I think that, you know, with what we do, you go in and you love those drivers, man. You pat them on the back, because
That's
really,
right.
about this the other day about how to get racetracks full in the stands. And hey, the first customer for a guy who is promoting a track is drivers, you know, and without them, there's no show. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. And you know, you talk about all of the work that goes behind working on the race cars, the tinkering, all. I'm gonna tell you, and I tell people this all the time. When you see somebody at your local racetrack or somebody on a touring level that is kicking butt, taking names, winning, dominating, they're not just doing it because they get to the racetrack, they figure the car out, and they're on a you know, a nice, you know, drive. No, they're constantly working on those cars. Everything that you see at the track on the weekend, or what they're doing on the field, as you mentioned, the team, the same is being done during the week. What's done Monday through Thursday is what shows the results on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, or whatever time it is. You got to work all week long. And the same thing for us, Kip. I don't know about you. I'm not one of those announcers that just show up at the track, grab a microphone, and I'm hot joy. You gotta prep. You gotta look at your points. You gotta look at your stats. Make sure that God Almighty, there's so many chassis that I can think of in my head over the years. You know, chassis, engines, find things that fans love to talk about. And I'm one of those types, Kip, where yes, sponsors. You want to mention your sponsors on the people's cars. But you also want to mention who the driver is. You want to make those fans know about who this driver is. Where do they come from? What are their successes? What championships have they raced? What wins do they have? Where do they come from? What's their background? And if you could knock that out within about 2 or 3 laps in a hot lap session, because I always say that's the time for them guys to become superstars. Qualifying as well, if you do qualifying. That's where that work comes in. And when you have a long red flag or a rain delay or something of that caliber, when there's not anything going on the racetrack, that's when you really can see if you're an entertainer or not to keep a crowd enthused.
No doubt about that. And I'll tell you another thing, though. We'll go back. You touched on one thing there and worded it a little bit different. I have said this over 100 times on our podcast. What you were just saying feeds right into my philosophy. Races, and listen to this, drivers and teams and fans, races are not won on the racetrack.
No.
Are won in that race shop. The one that wants the most is going to get the most. What you get in is what you will get out. If you're cool with just riding around and being mid-pack, so be it. But don't be fussing and arguing with, you know, officials or whatever. Again, hear it again, folks. Races are not won on the racetrack. They are won in the shop.
Amen, brother. You're exactly right. And the same thing for us. You know, people misconstrued or do not realize we're fans.
Oh
I
yeah.
got into this business because I was a fan as a kid. I grew up in this industry. I love doing football because I love football. I love doing basketball because I watch basketball. I'm, I, you know, I mean, I will tell you this. I've never seen lacrosse a day in my life. I might have browsed across it on the television, but I'm going to step out of my wheelhouse this year. I'm going to be broadcasting swimming and lacrosse. I've never done it a day in my life. I'm not going to say that I am a professional, experienced lacrosse swimming announcer, but we're going to do that because people got to be willing to take that jump. You got to take that jump to try new things. If you fail, it's going to teach you and you're going to learn from them. There's nothing wrong with failing and growing from it. When you fail and you don't, take a lesson for what it is that you went through and you shrug it off and say, well, forget this, that's when you're not going anywhere. But when you go through things in life, and it could be in broadcasting, it could be with your job, with your work, personal, whatever. When you fail and you try to find a way to pick yourself up and learn and grow from it, that's when you're blossoming. That's when you're maturing. That's whenever you are excelling to take yourself to another level. But back to what I was saying on the subject before going to lacrosse and swimming, Kip, we're fans. We do what we do because we love it. I'm a fan first. And I think sometimes people misconstrue that, well, this guy's on television. He's on the radio. He's on PA. This guy gets this and he gets paid this and this. Let me tell you something. First ever gig I ever made as an announcer when I was in school, it was free. First ever announcing gig I ever made was $20 working at Southern National as a pit reporter. Ron Gammon enjoyed what I did at 13 years of age, but I didn't make $100, $200 at 13 years old. It didn't happen that way. You can like somebody, but you got to build up your years and experience and knowledge before you get a chance to go and do something. And that's one of the things that get me on some of these young announcers of today, Kip. And I'm not trying to down anybody, but I feel like some of them have a cocky arrogance about them where they think, well, I need to be here. You're here. Well, I need to be right here with you. No, you don't. You need to be down here and let's work your way up. And then when you're right here with us, then we can see where everybody is in the middle because you've earned your dues. You got some of these young announcers that they come in like bulls in a china closet and they expect to just set the world on fire. Don't go that way, And the reason why I say that, Kip, I used to be one of those young kids. I used to be one of those young guys. I used to be the one that wanted to work with Larry Long or work with Mike Leggett or work with Steve Vale, and I get pushed down to the bottom. Hey, man, this isn't your time yet. You can do the hobby stock race, Wesley, but you can't do the super late models yet. Hey, you can do the modifieds, but you can't do the late models yet, Wesley. Hey, the Touring Series has come to town. You can do the pure stocks or the 4-cylinders, but you can't work with James Essex or Rick Eshelman because you haven't reached that level yet. But people get butthurt, Kip, and they get mad because they feel like they're not being respected. But the fact of the matter is you got to respect the opportunity to climb to that level to work with people of that caliber. And I think that's where a lot of young announcers are missing that.
Well, and the time and the dedication that it takes to prep. I mean, you have to do the homework,
Sure.
Hey, every Saturday night at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. I mean, there's homework, that I like to come in, and I like to know that if Wesley Outland, driver to number 10, is your feature winner here tonight in the 602 crate late models.
Certainly.
Hey, you picked up the win last night over at East Lincoln Speedway last week. But hey, you know what I'm saying? You got to go in and put it all together and you bring the true story of what we're doing. But there is a lot of prep and there's a lot of homework into it. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you just said. So going away from, how you got started in it and what's coming up for 2023, everyone knows, man. Everyone knows Wesley Outland is enthusiast. Yes, you are a race fan. I am a race fan. But now I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't think that I can knock you off the stump and ask you something that you could not answer. But one thing that we've tried to do with our guest on our show is, whether it be a driver, if it's a team member, if it's a sponsor, whatever, we talk about their story with racing. Now, away from announcing, whether it be basketball or football or racing, and I'll go ahead and give you a plug here for the swimming deal. I know you probably haven't done that. No pun intended. I'm sure you'll dive right in. You'll be good to go. And,
Yeah.
also, I will go ahead and give you permission to use the one line that you laughed so hard about, where the guy spun out 3 times at county line. I said, "Spinderella, the silver slipper fits." You remember that?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
It's yours. You can do it. But knowing all of these things about you, let's let our viewers in on one thing that people may not know about Wesley Outland, whether it be a hobby or something that you do away from the racetrack that nobody knows. That's one thing that, like I said, people might not know about Wesley.
If there was one thing that people did not know about Wesley, it would say that if I had to go back and do things over again, I would have done things differently in my life. I love my job. I love what I do. I've traveled all over this great country, but I've missed so much. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize, that are people that burn the midnight oils and do this job. I've messed up in marriages. I've messed up in relationships. I've messed up in friendships. I have my son, Nathan, that is, of course, he's grown up so fast. He's 16 years old. You know, time flies by. I love what I've done for a career, and I've been blessed. But if I could go back and do things differently again, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do what I do, because I've been blessed with, I've been able to have as a career, but I definitely would have done things differently. I think instead of being a great broadcaster, I wish I would have been a better husband. I wish I would have been a better father. I maybe that's not the answers that you were looking for, or a question of that, but I'm not going to lie to you. This broadcast industry is not all sunshine and rainbows. And I'm going to quote another great friend of mine who, in my opinion, should be in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame for announcers, and that's Roby Helm. And Roby Helm said it best after the passing of Rick Eshelman, and I worked many, many seasons with Roby Helm. Whenever the lights go out, whenever the car haulers load up, whenever you're in that hotel room laying in that bed by yourself or driving down that road or waiting for that next flight, you're in a totally different world. It's not the glamour that people think it is. And I've had a great life, and I'm not trying to say anywhere here on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast that I regret what I've done. I believe everything happens in all times and all places. But I wish that I would have been a better husband and a better father and a better friend to many people. And I can't take that back of what I've done in the past. All I can do is move forward to be a better person in the future.
Well, hearing stuff like that, away from the voice of, flow racing or wherever it may be on any given night, man, it just shows to hear you say something like that. It just shows that you're real. So no shame in that, none whatsoever. It just shows that you're real. Hey, but there again, back to what we've talked about the whole entire night. You are a race fan. You're an enthusiast. I'm glad to call you my friend. And, man, if I can ever do anything for you, you let me know. I'm a phone call away. And I appreciate the friendship, man, and the bond that we have joined together. Simply, your name is on that list of many, many people. And I've said it many times on this podcast. I've traveled all over the world. I played softball all over this country before I got into racing and working in the boating industry and stuff like that. And some of the greatest people that I've ever met in my life have been at a dirt racetrack or an asphalt racetrack. And I'm thankful that our paths crossed the way they did. And again, I'm glad to call you my friend, man. And we have certainly enjoyed having you on our show tonight, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Remember, Finish Line comes back on January the 4th. Kip, love to have you as a guest. Thank you for all that you do. I can tell you unofficially or officially, I will be at Wake County Speedway again for another year. Thank you to Charlie Hanson and William Brown. I will be back there at the racetrack at Wake County Speedway. That's a track I grew up as a kid. Quarter-mile bull ring on Friday night working with NASCAR. I will be at Langley Speedway thanks to Bill Mullis, Chuck Hall, Brian White. I'll be working big races with them at Flow Racing, Racing America. I'll be doing stuff with them. Of course, in addition to that, Florence Motor Speedway, Dillon Motor Speedway, and Carteret County Speedway is tracks that also I have lined up to be working with as well. So as far as the series stuff, as far as TV stuff, got to wait till the schedules come out. And slowly but surely, they are starting to come out. But I love you all. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And the reason why I say I love you all, I might not know you from Adam or have a relationship like I have with Kip Thompson or other people. But I love you because you're race fans and you have the same passion and heart for the sport that I have as well. And God's blessed me. I hope God will bless all of you. Keep you safe. Have a great 2023. And Kip, I thank you for letting me be on today.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Wesley. And from our house to your house, man, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And I can't wait to see you somewhere in 2023.
I'll see you somewhere, man. I see you when I see you, like I used to say on TV doing the bargain market.
All right, my friend. All right, fans, that is Wesley Outland, our special guest here tonight on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. Tonight's show has been brought to you in part by Raging Rooster Catering out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Thompson's Lawn Maintenance out of Sanford, North Carolina. Be sure to look us up on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe our page, and give us a like and a share on our Facebook page, Voice of Victory Lane Podcast. And always, as we kick off and we get ready to start into 2023, always be on the lookout. I could be coming to a racetrack near you, and you could be who we're talking about next. We hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from all of us here at Voice of Victory Lane Podcast. Good night, everybody.